Okay, this chapter is called The Cold Stream Guards. Chapter 20. When my brain woke up again, I opened my eyes. I was lying on something soft and could see a blur of flashing blue lights and lots of police cars everywhere. Right, let's get her in the ambulance, said a voice. Tom was standing next to where my feet were. He was crying and saying friend a lot to a London police officer, but standing behind him were two of the Queen's Special Guards. Forgetting that I had been frightened, I sat up and cried out, please, and realising the note was still in my hand, but all scrumpled up now, I held it out and there to them and said, please, you have to give this to the Queen. The London police officers who had been talking to Tom walked up to me. Now, you just calm down and take it easy. You did a dangerous thing today. Those are trained combat officers, he said, pointing at the Special Guards. They trained to stop anyone attempted to hurt the Queen. But we didn't want to hurt the Queen, sobbed Tom, his face red and wet. We know that now, son, but we can't be too careful, can we? Said the officer, his voice not as strict as it was before. One of the Queen's Special Guards came over to me. Let's have a look at this note then, shall we? He said gently, holding out his hand. I handed it to him and watched his face as he read it. Sometimes people won't tell you what they really think, so you have to watch their faces extra hard and see if they give any clues away. I didn't expect a Special Guard to do anything with his face, especially not one who worked for the Queen, but this one chuckled and then handed it over to the other Special Guard standing next to him and who had more medals on his chest. He smiled too. I don't know why, because it wasn't meant to be funny. This is what the note said. Dear Your Highness Majesty, Queen of England, we wrote you a letter on Friday about Ahmed, our friend, who's a refugee boy, and put 3 stamps on it so that the Royal Mail would get it to you fast. We've come to see you today because it's Wednesday already, and we thought the Royal Mail might have lost the letter, and as the gates are closing on Friday, it means we haven't got much time to find Ahmed's family and bring them here too, so they can all live together. We're outside the gate now. Tom's got brown hair and I've got dark brown hair, and we're in our school uniforms, which are dark blue and grey with pictures of a ship and a book on it so that you can see us easily. We can't stay later than 1:30 because if we don't get home at home time, then our mums and Tom's dad and Josie and Michael will worry. Please let us come and see you as soon as you've finished your breakfast. Yours sincerely, me and Tom. We've got extra tea bags for you. P.S. Hoping to have tea with the Queen there, were you? Asked the second guard as he shook his head. Here, take a look at this, he said, passing the note to a police officer who was standing opposite. She read it and said, well, you don't see notes like that every day, do you? A paramedic woman in a dark green onesie looked at the note too. "Ah, sweet," she said. Then she made me lie down again and started pushing the bed onto the ambulance. But I don't want to go to hospital. Please, no, I shouted, starting to feel scared. I don't like hospitals. The last time I saw Dad was when he was in hospital, and I had made a promise myself that I would never ever see one again. Not ever. Don't worry, we won't take you to the hospital unless you need it, darling, but I do need to check you're okay and that you don't have concussion, said the paramedic calmly. She had long black hair that was tied into a ponytail and large brown eyes and an upside down watch on her chest. Just lie here quietly for me for a few minutes, and we'll have you out and about in no time, she added, giving me a wink. The wink and a nice voice made me feel a little bit better, so I did what she said. After she pushed me into the ambulance, the paramedic told me her name was Devinda and asked me all sorts of things, like how I was feeling and if I had a headache and who Ahmed was and about my mum and my dad. I told her about my dad and she said that she was sorry. She held my wrists and checked my pulse and put a thermometer in my mouth and then said, I just need to check your heartbeat. But when she pulled up my school jumper, she stopped. "Nice top," she said, her mouth suddenly looking as if it was tickling her. I looked down at myself and suddenly remembered that we had put on our best outfits for the Queen. "It's my best top," I said, touching the shirt dotted with sparkly silver stars and golden planets. "For when we saw the Queen," I explained. "Ah," grinned the paramedic Devinda as she opened the top 3 buttons and put a cold silver disc on my chest. "Now take a deep breath in and out." After listening for a moment, she nodded and said, "You look and sound absolutely fine to me." "Ready to go?" I nodded. So she helped me down from the bed and held my hand as I got out of the ambulance. In the distance, I can hear people cheering, but I didn't know why. "Now, I think it's time for you two to get on home. Officer Martina is going to take you both home in their special car over there," said paramedic Devinda. She pointed to the London police officer who was standing next to Tom and the 2 special guards. Behind her was a police car. Behind her was a police car with flashing blue lights on top of it. "Really?" asked Tom, his eyes lightening up. I was excited too, but then I remembered the note. But what about the Queen and the note?" I cried, looking up at everyone. "If we don't give it to the Queen, then she won't know that we have come, and she won't know about Ahmed." Officer Martina smiled. "Oh, I think she'll know you came all right," she said. The special guard wearing the most medals walked over to me and bent down so that his face was at the same level as mine. He had bright blue eyes and a large dimple in his cheek, just like Dad used to, only Dad had them in both cheeks, not just one. "Her Majesty isn't here today," he said. "She's actually in her other castle in Windsor." "The Queen's got another castle," said Tom, looking horrified. "Don't worry, I'll make sure she knows you were here and that she gets this." The special guard held out the note. "All right? Promise?" I asked, suddenly feeling happy again. "Like, really, really promise?" "You have my word," he nodded, and a Coldstream Guard never breaks his word. "What's a Coldstream Guard?" I asked immediately, imagining lots of them diving into freezing cold streams with their hats on. "A Coldstream Guard is what we are," he replied, standing back up straight. "I'm Lieutenant Chris Taylor, and standing next to your friend Tom, there is Second Lieutenant Walter Kungu." I looked over at the other guards, who was now giving us a salute. "We're part of the very special force that protects both the Queen's houses and the country." "Can you give her our present too, then?" asked Tom. "Presents?" asked Officer Martina. "Yeah, we got them for the Queen," explained Tom, pulling out the half-eaten packet of biscuits, the ruler, the packet of football stickers, and the squishy box of fudge from my rucksack. "I'm afraid we can't take those," grinned Lieutenant Kungo, "but we'll let her know about them when we give Her Majesty your note." Okay, Tom shrugged, stuffing everything back into his bag. "Now, kids, time to get you home," said Officer Martina. "We've spoken to your school and your parents and have told them what happened." "Oh no," said Tom, twisting his hands. "We're going to be in so much trouble." I nodded miserably. "Don't worry," said the paramedic Davinia. "I'm sure they'll be happy just to have you back home safe and sound. And I think," she said, looking up at the helicopters that were flying overhead, "you might even be a little bit famous." Tom frowned at me, and I frowned back, because we were both wondering what could have made us famous. "You two have a safe journey now," said Lieutenant Taylor. "And the next time you want to send the Queen a message, don't go running after any of us soldiers," said Lieutenant Kunga. "A letter is more than enough." And giving Tom and me a nod and a salute, the Queen's special Coldstream Guards, who were now extra special to both Tom and me, marched off back towards the palace carrying the Queen's note. "Right, young troopers, in you go," said the officer Martina, as a silver car with bright yellow and blue squares on its doors and a huge siren on the tops stopped in front of us. Passing me a piece of folded paper, paramedic Davinia said, "That's a special note for your mum, to let her know you're completely fine, so make sure you give it to her, okay?" I nodded. By then, smiled Paramedic Davinda as she began to wave. You both take care of yourselves now. Getting into the back seat of the police car, we waved back. Lots of people also began cheering and waving at us from all along the palace walls. So we waved back to them too, even though we didn't really know why. Tom got out a biscuit and started eating it. I took one too, but even though I was hungry, I couldn't eat it. My stomach felt all jumpy and twisty inside, and the closer we got to home, the more jumpy and twisty it began. There are some journeys you can't ever enjoy, no matter how exciting they are, not even when you're in a real police car, because at the end of it, you know you're going to get at least 100 detentions and probably won't be allowed any pocket money or chocolate for 10 years. But it was okay, because even not being able to have any chocolate ever again was worth it if the Queen helped Ahmed find his mum and dad. That was all that really mattered. That's the end of that chapter. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll read you another one tomorrow. Bye.